Okay, all right, this is Channeling TED, how to prepare and present a winner talk. So I have 4 goals in every talk. It doesn't matter what I'm talking about or who I'm talking to or where I'm talking. I have the same 4 goals. Number 1, they should like me.
That's a goal?
That's a goal. Why? Not me personally. Most of these people I'm never going to meet again. And it's not like I'm in this to be liked, okay? If I'm in this to be liked, I'm in the wrong business. So it's not, why should they like me? Because if they like me, they're going to be open to what I'm saying. Also because for a lot of them, I'm the first observant Jewish woman they've ever met. That's okay. I'm the first observant woman they've ever met, so they, if they like me, that often is like, oh, I can't tell you how many times people say to me like, oh, I loved your talk. You were nothing that I thought you would be. Or after, for Shabbat, like after Friday night, and they leave, they're like, this is their first traditional Shabbat experience. They're like, you're nothing that I thought you were going to be. Like, it's an awkward moment. Like, what do you say? Thank you. Right?
Can I just interject something?
Sure.
Because I want to give my point of view
Yeah.
on that. I met Lori in 2000. She was already doing leading missions then on a smaller
Scale.
venue. And I didn't know what to expect on this trip, first time to Israel. And I met Lori, and I had already had these notions of, Orthodox and what it was like, growing up in Baltimore and being more secular, but knowing who I was as a Jew. But meeting Lori for the first time, meeting a cool, hip, okay, and that I connected. And that made my connection much more deeper.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's, you hear? So if they like me, they're going to be open to what I'm saying and where I'm coming from. So that's number 1. They should like me. Number 2, they should be blown away at the incredible wisdom and relevancy of Torah. Blown away. Like, why didn't they ever teach me this in Hebrew school? Okay? Like, no one ever told me this. Relevancy. This has to do with your life. This is wisdom for your life. They should be blown away. Number 3, leave them wanting more. It's a thing that I do in classes often. I go, but that's another class. Now I used to say that so they invite me back. Okay. Now I'm like, please don't invite me back. Okay. But why do I say that's another class? Because I want them to know there is so much more. I'm giving you the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more. Please go out, learn more. Number 4, they should leave the talk and they should immediately be able to apply something they learned in the talk into their life. Those are my 4 goals, no matter what I'm teaching. No matter what subject, no matter what country, no matter what audience, the same 4 goals. Okay, there are 2 parts to giving a winner talk. There is content and there's presentation. Good content without presentation is not a good talk. Have you ever gone to a talk where there's so much good content, but the person giving it is just really boring and it's really not, you're like, so you had good content, but you don't have good presentation. Do you ever go to a talk where there's great presentation, but it's, and you're so entertained and you walk in, it was so great, I loved it. And somebody goes, what did he say? You're like, oh, he was so funny, I loved it. You should have been like, but what did he say? I don't know, because they really didn't say anything. So, and you feel ripped off. It's like a negative. I always say it's like Chinese food. Like 2 hours later, you're still hungry. Like, what did I get? Like, yeah. All right, but so what do you want? You have to have both. You have to have great content and great presentation. You must have both. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do content. But how many of you were in the Elisa's class earlier? Okay, so about half of you were. So I urge you, for those who weren't in Elisa's class earlier, to get the video because they did an excellent job on creating content. Excellent. I was taking notes. All right, excellent. I'm going to tell you how I create content and incorporating a little bit, and I missed the end of it because I had a meeting. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about content is what they talked about, which is you need to know the big idea. So every class is, I look at it as I'm taking them on a journey. I'm saying, hold my hand. I'm taking you somewhere. Trust me, okay? Trust me. We're going someplace together, but you better get there, okay? Like, also, if the talk is called something, you better speak to what they called it. Even if they called it something different than you would call it, the worst thing is you go to a talk and it wasn't what they advertised. You didn't say. So don't do that. Make sure you talk, like they're expecting you to take them to some place that they advertise, all right? There is a title to the talk. All right. It should be that the person at the end of the class can walk out of the class and somebody would say, what did she say? And you could say, she said this. You got it. You got the big idea. You got the end journey. I got you to that place, and you can articulate it. And hopefully you were entertained along the way. All right. So material. So the number one thing that stops somebody from creating a class is creating the class. The time and the. Don't reinvent the wheel. I'm here to tell you, I steal everybody's material, and you can steal mine, okay? What do you mean steal? First of all, there's no new ideas, okay? We're talking about the Torah, all right? Like, so you're not stealing it when Hashem wrote it, and like he's giving. So what do? You're taking material, whether it's from the text itself, or from this source, or from another speaker that you heard, and you're making it your own. All my classes, you could teach all my classes. You have my permission. Please teach just make it your own. There was so funny. There was a Rebbitzin from Detroit, and she said to me, and she was in a class I gave about training the young Rebbitzins coming out, and she said, like, what's stopping me is material. I just like to create classes. I just don't even know where to begin and where to have the time. I go take my classes. I go to h.com and listen to all my talks. Just make it your own. Put in your own examples. So I came there a few months later. She goes, Lori, you'd be so proud of me. I taught a breakout session during Rosh Hashanah, and I taught this class of yours, but I pretended your kid was my kid. I go, that's okay. You can even steal my kids, okay? So you're not stealing. You're taking the material that's out there. In my class, I quote people all the time. And Rebbitzin Heller says, and my husband says, and Reb Noach said. Like, I'm quoting people all the time. I'm using that. That's my material. And I'm packaging it into a way that resonates for me. And if it resonates for me, it's going to resonate for you. And that's important. When I first started speaking, many years ago, I thought I had to be Rebbitzin Heller. Do you know Rebbitzin Spor Heller? She's a tremendous scholar. Like, she's so brilliant. And I thought I had to be Rebbitzin Heller. And it was a disaster. Disaster. Why? I'm not Rebbitzin Heller. I'm not an intellect. All right, I'm not intellectual. I'm not an intellectual. I don't have her mind. I don't have her breadth of knowledge. I don't have her she's so funny, but in a very different kind of dry sense of humor. So I can't, the more I try to represent Hollywood, the worse it was. So then I quote her, or I take things out of it. You gotta be you. Don't try to be me. Somebody once, I was training these Rebbitzins, and they were like, are we supposed to be you? I'm like, please don't. It's so exhausting. Okay? Like, you really don't want to be me. So be you. Hashem made you for a reason. Be you. But take my material, please, okay? Right? All the CDs, all my talks, you can give my talks. And they're designed in a way, like, some of the Spanish-speaking, the women who come on the talks, or even the Israelis that go, we love you, Lori. You speak so simply. I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or that's so I design it in a way that, like, you don't have to be so brilliant. You don't have to have so much knowledge, like, to be able to take the wisdom. What is, like, people come up to me after my marriage talk, you saved my marriage. I didn't save your marriage. The Torah saved your marriage. Hashem just gave me the ability to take this wisdom and package it in a way and present it to you in a way that you can hear it. That's it. That's it. That's what you're doing. All right? The Torah, you have the greatest product in the world. It's the greatest product in the world. You have to try hard to sell it badly, and we've managed to do that, all right? This is the book of books. This is the book of all time. Like, it's the greatest wisdom in the world. There is no psychology or self-help book that even comes close, all right? Sometimes I'll say something to my mother, who's a therapist, and she'll go, oh, that's modern psychology. I go, no, that's the Talmud, okay? She goes, no, it's modern psychology. It's the Talmud. So it's the greatest book in the world, but we've managed to present it in a way that's boring and dry and irrelevant and, like, get me out of here, all right? So just, you have to be confident, okay? Be confident. You have the greatest product in the world. It's like you've got Coca-Cola and you sold it badly. Like, what? All right. So in terms of creating a talk, also, So they talked about the set induction, which I really like that very much, which is a fancy word for like start strong, okay? So start strong. So the Talmud actually says you should start with a joke. Why? And you see rabbis do that all the time. The rabbi gets up at the podium and he starts with a joke. Why? Why does the Talmud say that? Because you need a break between them coming in their own lives and they're parking and they're worried about something and they sit down and I didn't get a good seat and can I see, and the start of the talk. There has to be some sort of transition there. So that they do a joke so that it kind of breaks the tension, and now you got them. I think I'm a funny person, but I cannot tell a joke, okay? I start telling a joke, I'm like, oh no, I told it wrong. Hold on, no, there were 3 people walked into a bar. Like my kids make fun of me. I really can't tell a good joke. So I don't start with a joke, but I will start with something. I always say that giving a talk is like serving a meal. Start strong, end strong. Don't poison them in between, okay? Okay, because people remember the beginning and the end. They really do. And in between, hopefully you're giving them tremendous material in your food, but some people will come to my Shabbat table and they like disagree with everything I stand for, but they walk away and go, she makes her own bread, okay? Because it's impressive to people. Why do I make challah? Because it's not that hard, and it really impresses people to no end. Yes, it's a mitzvah and it's very beautiful, and my family loves it, but it's unbelievable. She makes her own bread. And then you end with some sort of fancy dessert, okay? And in between, it was like, yeah, I fed them. Do you understand? So it's like people remember the beginning of a poem and the end of a poem, the beginning of a song and the end of a song. Beginning and ends are important. So when you're a speaker, know how you're going to begin and know how you're going to end. If you begin and you don't know the beginning, you have your material down, but you don't have a strong beginning, it's kind of like you start okay, hold on. No. You command it right from the beginning. We're going to talk about presentation in a minute. So you should know what you're saying right at the beginning and know how you're going to end. There's nothing worse than sort of petering out and I guess that's it. Okay, no. You end strong too. So if I know, for me, maybe it's just me or it's psychological. If I know how I'm going to begin, I know how I'm going to end. The middle is just the material, okay, and you flow the material in. But you have to have a strong beginning and end. It's very important. I always try to flatter the audience. I do, all right? So now where I am, I'm so happy to be in LA. Okay, whatever it is that you're going to say, I brought the good weather, start with something where I told my daughter she was speaking at a high school, and she was a little bit nervous about speaking, and I said, she was a little bit of a panic attack, and she called me up, and I said to her, I said, a good beginning would be, I just had the premiere of this film in New York, 850 people. They had so many organizations. It was an unbelievable success, but I'm more excited about presenting it to you than them. Why? Because you're the high school kids, because this is you. You're going onto campus. And it was like a great beginning. Do you understand? They're feeling like, wow, she likes me. They want you to like them too. So there's you're creating a relationship with them. We're on a date. We really are. We're on a date. We're going to spend an hour together, and we're going to enjoy it. It's going to be stimulating. And you're really creating a relationship. I don't know if men feel like that when they speak, but that's how I feel. We're in a relationship here. Okay.
Can I add one thing? What Lori does, and I don't know if you know the term, there's a new phrase, Daniel Goleman, who wrote about emotional intelligence, is now talking about group emotional energy and intelligence. And so what you're doing, because like you said, everyone comes in with their own stuff in their own place, you're getting everyone as the leader onto the same playing field. And if you don't start off high, you can have everyone feeling tired and grumpy. But if you come in with your pep, it gets us all away.
So if you are passionate, Talmud says that words from the heart enter the heart. Or does it say that in Mishlei? I don't know. So this is one of my weaklings. So I believe it says words from the heart enter the heart. What does that mean? It means that if it's real to you and you're passionate about it, they'll get it. It'll go right to them. When I first started preparing classes, there'd be something where I think I'm supposed to say this, and that's what the source says, or that's what that other speaker says, and that's how it's supposed to go. But I don't really understand it, get it, and I actually have a problem with that. So at the beginning, I would say it, and as soon as you say it, and it's not real to you, they go for the jugular. They sense it. They go, and you have nothing to defend because you don't really believe it either. Okay? If you don't believe and it's not real to you and you're not passionate about it, don't say it. And guess what? They're not going to say, why didn't you say that? It's like serving a meal and apologizing for the things you didn't serve. Never apologize. That's another thing for content. It's a mistake. I hate it, and I jump on my speakers when they do this, and they go, oh, you know, I wish I had more time because they cut me off because otherwise. So they're feeling like, oh, I didn't get what I could have gotten. Don't apologize. It's like apologizing for a meal that you made. It should have come out differently. They don't know. Okay? They think that the challah should be flat and doughy. Okay? Like, they don't know it's supposed to be fluffy and light. All right? Like, they don't know. Don't apologize. Don't apologize. Just this. What it is what it is, and it's supposed to be this way. And it's really a mistake. All right. So in terms of creating a class, I would really say that you should listen to the tape of the Elizas. Do you hate being called the Elizas now? It's almost like you're a rock, like the Everly Brothers, okay? It's the Elizas, okay? So, yeah, Eliza squared. So, and I see it's so beautiful, the two of you, like that the two of you are greater than apart, like that you really complement each other so much. You guys are a great team. It really is beautiful. Like Ruth made a beautiful shit up there. So I would say that they have a much more thought out methodology. I'll tell you my methodology, which is, I think they actually said it's not so great, but this is what I do. This is what my husband told me. You say it, you say the idea, you source it, you give a true life example, ideally from your own life, because it's good, because it makes them feel close to you, and then you say it again. Okay? So you say the idea, right? You give a source to it, right? It's from the Talmud, it's from the Chumash, whatever, or this rabbi said, and then you give an illustration of it from your life. So they're like, because it's an idea, like, but for me, I give a talk the way, you know how you make a meal, you make dinner because that's what you wanted to eat? Like, I feel like, fish tonight, so that's what you made, all right? So I give a talk that I would want to hear. Like, I give it in a way that I like it because sometimes a speaker says an idea and I'm like, wow, but I don't know how to put it into my life. I don't know how to apply that. I always say, can you give an example? I'm always like, please give an example of how you apply that. And then I get it. That's the way I think. It can't just be out there. It's got to be, you got to bring it down. So you give an example, and ideally from your own life, right? And whether it's everything that happens in my life, be careful, you'll end up as a video blog, okay? People know, like the video blog this week that I have, my weekly video blog is on my taxi drivers, my drivers in Israel. Because something happened in the taxi, and then I take them. So people, everything that happens in your life is material for your class. Like Hashem put you through certain things, not just for your own self-growth, so that you can help others. And I really see that. Like, I went to visit a friend of mine, and whatever, he's Daniel Ratner, and he said it publicly, and he's battling a sickness, and I went to, and he's starting to become a public speaker, and he loves it, and I went to visit him in the hospital. I go, Daniel, think of the material, think of the stories you're going to have, and he really does. He uses it. Like, everything that happens in your life, use it to grow yourself and to share it with others. If something was significant in your life, it's like, do you ever somebody give you a hint about something like, this is the way you fold bottom sheets, okay? Which I still can't do. Even though I watched it online on YouTube, this is how you fold bottom sheet, and my daughter and I looked at it and went, no, we're not doing that, okay? We still do it this way. So when somebody shows you something, a trick, whether it's folding a bottom sheet, or this is how you get your challah to be fluffy, or this is the way you can save money, you're like, oh, don't keep it to yourself. Don't keep it yourself. Do you ever have a friend? I know somebody who leaves an ingredient out when they give you the recipe. They purposely leave an ingredient out. Why? Because they don't want it to be as good as theirs. Okay, whatever. It's like bizarre to me. For me, it's like, if this benefited me, I want to share it.
You're a multiplier, not a diminisher.
Exactly. And people, I think, in the class feel that. They feel like, oh, this is something that's significant to my life. I can't wait to share this with you. All right, it may not save you money, and it may not be able to, your sheets are nice. This is going to change your life, okay? This is really going to be transformational in your marriage. And I think they feel that. So everything that happens in your life is, to me, it's all material for sharing, okay? Which also helps you get through things. Like, okay, this will be a great video blog if I live through this. Okay. All right. So another thing that you'll see, that it's a technique I use, and you don't have to use this technique, but I find it very effective, is I use a lot of acronyms. numbers and acronyms, okay? Well, these are the 10 secrets to a great Jewish marriage, or the steps of prayer, RPAT. If you remember RPAT, you can pray anywhere, anytime. Recognize, praise, ask, and thank. The steps of tshuva, SRVP, or RSVP, but you switch the first two letters, like God's giving you an invitation to change. RSVP, switch the first two letters. Stop, regret, verbalize, make a plan. So this is not just, okay, the Jack P on the trip, right? The four things you never knew about Judaism. Just remember Jack P. And the Israelis were going, Jack P. I share this with everybody, okay? Right? You can't judge another person. It's not all or nothing. It's better to know not to do than not to know. And we're created for pleasure. This is, for many reasons I do this. Why? So I can remember the talk, okay? People are like, how do you stick without notes? I just have my acronyms. It's the meat of the talk. It also creates a beautiful step-by-step. Sometimes you don't know where the class is going. Where are we going? Where did he go? Where did she go? Like, are we ever going to get back here? No, we're going someplace. JAKP. All right, you feel like, oh, I got it. It's almost like you took a course and you finished, and we've got it. Also, I do it so that you can not only access it any time, you can share it with anybody. And these Israelis were telling me, we tell these Israelis, it's not all or nothing. Jack P. Okay, like it's you can access it and you can share it. That's what we need to do.
The 10 Commandments. Yes.
The 10 Commandments. Okay, I have a what do you call it? Like a what's the word I use? It's when I. No. There's a word that means this. Anyway. So I have a thing to remember the 10 Commandments. 1, there's only 1, and 2, there's not 2, and 3, right? Oh my God. So it's the word will come to me. Boom. So it's a way of remember the class. People remember the 10 Commandments. What's the word I'm using for? A mnemonic device. Thank you very much. It's there, and a mnemonic device. So also you'll see that, and a lot of people say, like, oh, you teach without notes. That's because, first of all, I've given the talk a lot, and because the talk, like my talk on, my most popular talk right now is The Gift of Life, Why I Donated My Kidney to a Stranger. So people are like, how do you speak without notes? I just tell the story about how I donated my kidney. So like, I don't need to remember, and then they cut me open. Like, come on, like just tell the story as if you were going to tell somebody that you just met in a coffee shop the story about, and I know there's certain places, and it's okay. Is that in my presentation or that? No, that's presentation. That's more presentation. So that we'll do back to content. Okay, numbers and acronyms. Okay, never apologize. I think that's it. All right, any questions about content before we go to presentation? Because that's very important. Got it? And again, I recommend the Elisa's talk that just came before. Everything's going to be taped and be on our website, I assume. It's very important. But again, you got to figure it out, like what works for you. People have different styles, okay? There's a certain style I have, and you got to find your own style, and that's good. Don't be somebody you're not. Don't be me. Again, it's exhausting. All right, presentation. Number 1, people are like, aren't you nervous when you speak? It's good to be a little nervous. I tell people, it's good to be a little nervous. Do you ever have a speaker and they're so chilled? They're so not nervous. It's almost like, do you even care about being up there? Okay, like where's the energy? It's good to be a little nervous. Why? Because you want it to be good, right? There's a feeling of like, oh, she's with us, like she's trying. Where somebody's kind of like, hey, like it's just, I just don't think it's a positive thing. It's good to be a little nervous. Not so nervous that you're paralyzed or that you have a panic attack. A little nervous. How do you be less nervous? So people have different techniques. One is, I know that if I know my content and I know my audience, then I'm much less nervous. If I'm not familiar with it, if it's a new talk, I'm more nervous because it's a new talk. I don't know where, are they going to laugh at that joke? Is this going to work? Or I'm not completely confident with who the audience is. For example, sometimes in foreign countries, people come in and things that get a big laugh in Cleveland, it bombs in Costa Rica. Okay, there's a different humor, there's a different thing. So that kind of is this going to work? Also, sometimes I'll go to a city. I remember once I spoke in St. Louis, and I always tell them, I ask them in advance. I have different questions I ask as a speaker. One is, who is the audience? Because I tailor my talk to who's in front of me. If I'm in a Beis Yaakov high school and giving a talk, and I can give them the same talks, but I'm going to frame it in a different way. I'm going to use different terms. It's so funny because sometimes I'll speak at a very religious high school, like a Beis Yaakov, and I'm so used to speaking to secular audiences. So I always start off. I go, okay, guys. So I just want to tell you, I'm usually speaking to secular audiences. So if I say Abraham our forefather instead of Avraham Avinu, I really am religious, and you can marry my sons. Okay, I'm just telling you. Okay, so that always gets a laugh and breaks up because I do have to give that caveat because they're used to saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu and I'm saying God, and they're just not used to that. So I'm just telling them, like, give me a break, and this is, you're going to get it. And they enjoy it. They're kind of like, oh, this is going to be different. This will be fun, and it brings them in. All right. So if you know your talk, and especially I'm telling you, when you know when you're going to begin and end, it just gives you so much confidence. It's really funny. It really does. And you know your audience. So once I was speaking in St. Louis, and they told me it's going to be a completely secular audience, complete new beginners, and like black hats walked in. Okay, like, are you kidding me? But there were people there who were secular. So I always tell people, when you're in a situation like that, with an eclectic crowd, know who your primary target is. So I speak, I'm not going to throw in a lot of Yiddish words to impress the people in black hats, okay? Like, that's not who I'm here for. I'm here for the person who doesn't know Abraham from Sarah, like doesn't know really anything. I hope I don't insult the other people, but I don't, if they think like this is who I'm here for. So I'm going to translate everything I say, and I'm going to use terms that they're going to understand, and I'm going to be me, and it turns out the religious people love it, okay? They really do, and they hear enough like Kodesh Baruch Hu stuff somewhere else. Okay. I know this sounds weird. Look great. Okay? You should feel like you look great. If you look great, you're going to just feel better, like you're going to have more confidence up there. So don't wear something that you don't feel it's flattering. Don't wear something that you're tugging at all the time, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how you have some things, it's like, and you're not sure, like, does it fit properly? Don't wear something like that. Wear something when you're going to speak that you feel comfortable in and you feel you look great in, right? As a woman, for sure, I don't think a rabbi's thinking this at all, but as a woman, I think that's important, that you feel that you look great. Ideally, do not use a podium or a stender, okay? Right? Most speakers, if this is not here, they're not even going to speak, okay? I once had somebody who we flew in a speaker once to Toronto, and it was in somebody's home. And it was a rabbi, and he says, well, where's the, I go, this is somebody's house. They don't have one of these, okay? And he literally, he was like started to have like a little bit of a panic attack. He took a chair and did this. He couldn't speak without something in front of him. So why do people like to be back here? Why? Security. Yeah, there's a security. It's like there's something protecting me from you, okay? So people need this, even if they don't have notes, they feel like they need something, okay? So Charlie Harari will tell you, go to the people, okay? Go to the people. Sometimes you're stuck because it's a big event, you're the keynote speaker, and it's a fancy dinner, and they've got their name here, and the microphone is set here, and it's not coming off. Sometimes you have to be there, but there's ways to play with it, okay? You don't have to be like glued here, okay? You can move a little bit, like you can speak a little bit. Ideally, you want to take the microphone. I have a list of things that I request when I'm a speaker. And one of them is, ideally, I like to have a lapel mic, or second best is a handheld mic, or third best is a mic with a a long wire. I said, I like to be Oprah. That's what I tell them. I said, I like to move around. I like to have that option. To be stuck behind here, if I do it, I still try to have a great talk, but it's not the ideal. The ideal is to go to the people. It really is. To have less of a barrier between you and them. The more confident you are, the more you can do that, and sometimes it takes work. Don't worry. This is basically people's security blanket, and some people just are not ready to let go of their blanket. That's okay. Sometimes it's a process. This is just a classic thing. Never have doors or windows behind you. Okay? This is actually not the ideal thing, because somebody walks in, you're completely distracted. Somebody walks in the back, if it's not bang, 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 then nobody's looking. But here it's like, I just lost you if somebody walks in here. Or if the door is behind you. So ideally, if you're in a situation and you either tell them or you try to move it around so that you're not in that situation. Never have windows behind you. Why? It's not just that you're distracted by the windows. What else? I'm dark. If it's a daytime thing and there's windows behind me, then I'm in shadow, even if there's lights. You're in shadow. It's hard. It's very hard on the eyes to have light coming in, bright light coming in, and it doesn't work. Okay. So ideally, no windows, no doors. Ideally, do a sound check. Try to get there early and do a sound check. Did you notice that we've had some challenges with our audio? Okay, we've had a few challenges. It's really very distracting, and it's not good. A good audio system really, you can have good content, good presentation, and the mic is going feedback. It takes away 30% of the impact. So ideally, you want to do a sound check. I was once in a situation, I think it was in South Africa, actually. I think it was South Africa. Years ago, it was a luncheon, and I remember the microphone, the person introducing me, the mic was going, and I'm thinking, okay, and I got up and they handed me this mic, and I was like, can you hear me? I just put the mic away, okay? I said, either we're going to fix the mic or I'm going to project and speak without. You have to learn, especially if you're speaking on Shabbat or Yontif and you can't use microphones, you have to learn how to project. And a microphone, you're really relying, if it's a good audio system, great. If it's not a good audio system, it's much better, just don't use it, really. But if you could do a sound check, then if it's not working for you, they can switch it up, and it's not simple. You see, like it's, as a speaker, it's very distracting. All right, okay, ideally don't use notes, but for some people their notes, Neely's so funny. Neely for years would come on the trips and she'd speak, and she says, I need a ständer because I have to someplace to put my notes. I go, you don't even look at them. I'm telling you, maybe once in 10 talks, she'll, where was I, or look at her notes. I go, you know it, you don't need it. Yet that's her security blanket, okay? Rav Gav. Did you ever see him look at his notes? But he always brings his binder of notes to every talk. It's his security blanket, okay? Just in case, all right? So ideally, and they don't speak without notes, and you can do it without notes. Ideally without notes. Why? There's it's much more free-flowing, and it's much more from the heart, but you have to know the material. You can't just make it up as you go along. So to begin with, I have to tell you, my daughter, Brachalea, she's the archivist of the family. So she goes into the garage and she goes through boxes, and she's literally made binders of my notes of classes, my holiday classes, one binder, don't you want your son to marry her? Yes. She's real unbelievable. I don't know. So she's fantastic. So she's found some funny things. She actually found the tape of our Vort, of our engagement party. So she found the first public talk I ever gave in Toronto. That wasn't just a class around a table. Another synagogue invited me to give a talk. And she goes, Ima, look at this. It was hilarious. So she all right? Thank you, Rabbi, for inviting me here. Okay, literally, I wrote every word, including thank you. Okay, unbelievable. And I literally got up there and I read it, and I looked up once in a while. And a lot of speakers are like that, which is fine. It's not the ideal. It's not the ideal. If you're to wean yourself off of the notes, first of all, the more you give the talks, definitely the easier that is. But if not, then you could take cue cards, or a piece of paper, and just have points. Right? Because, and I know people who, he does a memory thing where he's got little things to remind him that in his mind, okay, whatever, I don't know, he has different symbols in his mind that represent how he's going to do the talk, and he just has to remember the order of the symbols, and that's how he goes through. Everybody uses different things, but if you just have cue cards or a piece of paper where it's just points, you don't have to write out, thank you, Rabbi, for inviting me. Thank you. Okay? Just thank you, enough. You look down, it says thank you, so thank the Rabbi. And I do have to tell you that this is definitely one skill that the more you do it, the better you become. I guarantee it, okay? I already told Shoshana, and she's already seeing it. The more you do it, the better you become. It's good to have a little bit of talent with it, but even if you don't have talent, sometimes you're just in a situation in your business where you have to get up and speak, or it's your kid's bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. So, and there's training you can get. There's a rabbi I would recommend to you, Rabbi Eliezer Blatt. He used to work for the Cosby Show, and then he became religious. He trains the Aish Torah rabbis going out. I was the first woman he ever trained. Pardon?
And the Rebbitzins also.
Yeah, so now he trains the Rebbitzins, but before that it was all the rabbis. I was the first woman. He didn't know what to do with me, okay? So I was the first woman he ever trained, and he'll take you, for wherever you are, he'll take you from good to great. No matter where you're starting, he literally will up you. And I've observed, not even taken, but observed him giving it, and it reinforced, his voice is in my head when I speak.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the things he tells you is, I'll give you examples. He tells you, when you move for a reason. one of the worst things, it's like a classic thing in speaking, okay? Like he calls it the shooting duck thing. There are speakers who literally talk like this. I went to one the other day, and I was like getting dizzy. He literally like thought like, okay, I can't stand still. So he's talking, and he's just going back and forth because it was so ridiculous. I wanted to tell him, stop moving, like, or they sway, they shuckle back and forth, like or as people are going back and forth, like this is how they talk. I can't even watch them. Like I have to look down because I'm getting nauseous. They're going back. It's like watching a swing. Okay, back and forth, back and forth. So people have different, and he'll point it out. He videos you. He shows you from beginning to end how you progress in the day. He's great, and so I really recommend that. I recommend that you take a course, and I recommend Eliezer Blatt. He's excellent. So one of the things he tells you is it has to be, in terms of presentation, you have to vary the experience. It can't be on full blast and excitement the whole time. You have to have times where it's quieter and your voice gets quieter and it gets deeper and it gets more intimate. And then you have times where you shout because there's a reason to shout. When you use your hands, use them for a reason. When you move for a reason. Okay? There are times in my talk I literally know this is the time to move. Okay? I say like, what's the difference between their new year and our new year? Okay? So their new year, blah, blah, blah. And our new year, right? You do the same mistakes, okay? But now you have to go before God and you have to account. Like I do that every time. Like I know that. I literally position myself so that I'll be able to walk forward, and that's part of the emphasis and emphasizing that point. Everything is not always so thought out, and now I raise my hand like this. No, it's not like that. Because I'm very, but if you walked by, one of the things Rabbi Blatt says is, if you walked by a hallway and you're looking for a talk, and you glance in, you see there's a talk over here, there's breakout sessions, and there's the rabbi, like this. The rabbi's up there, and he's like this. This or this or this or this or this. And then you walk by and you go to the next class and the speaker's like this, right? Which one do you want to go into? Oh my gosh, like really? You want to go to the boring rabbi? Or I don't even know what the person's talking about, but it looks a lot more interesting. So you want to present it in a way that somebody's going to want to walk in and stay in. Another thing that, so you see, like people have different, they're called crutches, okay? And when you're a speaker and you're aware of them, then when I tell you this, you're going to be aware of it for other speakers, and me too. So people have verbal and physical crutches, right? There's verbal crutches and then there's physical crutches. So they're both bad. There are things that people repeat them time and time again. So a verbal crutch is usually what people say in between two ideas, because they're afraid to have blank space. So they say, okay, right? Like it's a verbal crutch. They don't even know they're saying it until you film them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how many times I said that. All right. So there's somebody I know, and she always uses the word all right, all right, all right, and I feel like saying in the talk, all right, okay, like you don't have to keep saying. She's afraid to have a space between the two thoughts. A space is good. It's okay to have blank space. It makes them. It lets them sink in what you just said. It gives you and I have to tell you, once I was speaking in front of a big audience, and it was like a lot of big rabbis, and I blanked out. There are times where you just go blank. You don't know what you're going to say next. You thought you knew, but it's gone. And I paused. And then I found it, and then I went on. So afterwards, one of the rabbis said, he goes, your dramatic pauses are so, I'm telling you, he really thought it was for a fact, and it was because I blanked out, okay? So there are times where I'm in the middle of the talk, and I'm just like, I blank, and I'll go, where was I? Like, and it's okay, you do it in a warm way. Like, you do it in a warm way, like, where was I? And people are like, oh, and they're trying to help you get back on track. Or because somebody asked a question, then you forgot where you were, and then they'll help you. That's okay. But you can't do that 10 times in the class. You could do it once in a talk, like, where was I? And I usually say, like, after 50, the hard drive is full. Okay. So be aware of the crutches. So physical crutch. So that's a verbal crutch. It's okay to have. That's usually where the verbal crutch is coming from. You're just afraid for blank space. The physical crutch. Verbal crutches are easier to break than physical crutches, because you really, really don't know you're doing the physical crutch. You really don't know you're doing it. It's unbelievable. What's a classic one? Rabbis play with their tallis. Do you ever see this? When they're speaking, they're like, it's like Superman. Okay, I don't know what. Like, stop. They play with the tzitzit on their tallis. Again, they're always playing with it. Stop. It's so distracting. I'm like, put down the stupid. Like, stop doing that. It's a nervous tick. Like Johnny Carson did this. Like there's things that comedians do. There's like certain things that they do that is sometimes it's endearing, and sometimes it's maddening, and sometimes it's like this or whatever, or like I don't know what people do. So, but people have physical physical crutches that they do, and they're just like for for women, her hair, like she's okay. So it's very distracting to the audience. And you're doing it because you're nervous and you don't even know you're doing it. You don't even know you're doing it. When I watch my video blogs, I'm like, I can't believe I do that. Like, I didn't know I did that. I don't know I do this all the time. Okay, fine. People actually write in, why is she always doing that? Because I didn't know. All right. I talked about varying your voice. Tape yourself and critique it. And have others critique it. You don't want to do this, but it will help you, I promise you, okay? For years, I never watched myself. I just was so uncomfortable watching myself for years. And then I did, and you realize, oh, I shouldn't do that, or I didn't know I stood that way, or like, why would I, like, it's good. Or again, get others to critique you, because you do want to be better. You really do want to be better, and there are things that you're doing, and you don't even know you're doing it. And you could be such a better speaker if you just crank it up a little bit, okay? Just be more. One of the things that Rabbi Blatt has you do is he tells you prepare something like a 5-minute thing, and so you do, and you get up, and you know in advance you're doing it, and you give the 5-minute thing, and then he says, okay, now I want you to give it again over the top. Like ridiculous, like exaggerate everything, okay? Like everything is going to be overblown and like almost a caricature of who you are and what the talk is. And he makes you do crazy, silly things, okay? And then he plays both. And the crazy one is really much closer to where you want to be. It really is. And you don't even know it. You just have to be more. And it really is a performance. You get up, and I have a little bit of a theater background, so I'm not afraid of getting up in front of people. But you have to appreciate that public speaking, in the list of fears that people have according to the studies, public speaking is the #1 fear that people have. It is greater than fear of death. And that's why Seinfeld says that at a funeral, you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy, okay? So so it's, the fact that you're afraid means you're in good company, okay? Most people are afraid, but the more you do it, the more the training you have, the more comfortable and confident you feel in your material, and the awareness of your audience, the fear goes down. It starts going down the pipe. If you do have a fear of public speaking, you can, and this is what I did at the beginning, you can create talks where you're not talking very much. Workshops. Workshops are great. Why? Because you don't have to be talking during that time. They're working. All right. They're not shopping, but they're working. So you so you could do things like you could show a film. You don't have to be speaking every moment. So sometimes it's good to do that because you shouldn't be speaking every moment, but sometimes it's a way to get into public speaking, and you have a chunk of time where you're not talking, and so you feel more confident. If you also have a fear, don't open it up to questions and answers, because one of your fears is, what if they ask me a question I don't know the answer, or to handle it. So just say, you know what, I'll be around afterwards if you want to talk, and but thank you so much.
And then run.
Yeah, no, but be around. But a public question and answer, if you're afraid or you're not feeling comfortable, don't put yourself in that situation. I also happen to not like question and answer so much because you end on such a strong note, and then it's like, okay, are there any questions? And then it's like some stupid question or whatever, and things, and you have to deal with it. And then it didn't end on a like for everybody. It kind of like, okay, last question. But sometimes you have to do that because they want questions and answer. I usually like it like, listen, I tell them, they go, do what you want. It's okay to have questions and answers. I said, just tell them I'll be around, during the refreshments, and I'm happy to come over, because sometimes it just loses it. You but if you're in a Q&A situation, because a lot of times they insist, which is fine. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes you can really bring in material you almost forgot, and you can supplement and bring in other stories. But you have to know that sometimes it can become combative if you don't control it.
Or you can plan the question. Do you have your friends come?
Right, have your friends come. First, I want to say how fabulous you are. Okay. Did I tell you how fabulous you are? So don't lose the battle and win the war. Don't get into a debate with anybody. I made the mistake to do that before. Don't do that. Even if you're tempted to, you can say, you know what, can we talk afterwards? Like, it's a great question. Maybe we should discuss that after the class. And also, don't let anybody monopolize the class. And also, my husband, it's his pet peeve, don't have somebody in an audience ask a question and then just answer that person. You're still speaking to everybody, okay? Don't let it be like, okay, now we're in a relationship and we broke up with you, okay? Yes.
Lori, one of the challenges that has been brought to my attention by family members or friends that I've brought to talks, and I've seen it myself. So you go to a talk and you really want to hear the speaker, and the speaker is speaking, and every 2 seconds, a hand up, and you don't even hear what you meant to hear.
Right.
And it's
the best speakers say, usually it's like, you know what, we'll take questions at the end. Like, if somebody will put up the hand up, I'll go, is it okay if we take questions at the end? But there are certain talks I give where the questions are okay. And you have to know if you're good at handling them. If you're not good at handling them and you're not going to get through the material, or it's off topic, like I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about raising kids. Why did the Holocaust happen? Right, in every talk, like it really. And so, you know, I said it's a very heavy question that you're asking, and it's a very important question, but maybe we could talk afterwards. So, because it's really not the subject right now, but I do, you know, you stay behind. I'll be there for you, okay? Like don't make somebody, whatever. There's other situations you're in where you're on a panel, and then somebody like monopolizes. I hate panels. How about you? I hate panels. Why? Because the moderator. Most moderators are terrible. Most moderators will literally let one person on the panel monopolize everything, or one person, or go off topic, and they run out of time by the time they get to you. Like, I'm like, when I'm on a panel discussion, I say, please, all the panelists and the moderator must meet beforehand, and we talk about it. I go, oh, do we agree that when he introduces us, we speak for 1 minute to introduce us? Because literally, like, he'll introduce, and the first person goes on for 20 minutes, okay? And then there's no time for even questions. It makes me crazy, okay? It's because very few people are good moderators. It's a skill to be a moderator, to keep things moving and to get the questions going and to stay on topic. And most moderators are just like, oh, you be the moderator. They just pick somebody. And like, yeah.
So back to the point. So if you're as the instructor or, you know, person giving the talk, it's your responsibility. If the questions are just nonstop, to bring it back to what we're meant. Like,
yes. If there is no moderator and it's just you up there, it's your responsibility to control the talk. Mm-hmm. It's your responsibility. Don't let anybody hijack the talk. It's your responsibility, but you have to do it in a way that you don't embarrass people and you leave people intact and you give people dignity. At the beginning, I was just like, I couldn't hide the fact that this was the stupidest question I ever heard. Okay, but now I can hide it. Like, wow, that's so important, and I've never thought about that, or whatever it is. Like, just you have to be able to. You're in control. Don't let them hijack it. Don't let one person hijack it, or don't let a group of people, because sometimes you're talking about things that can be controversial. You have to control the talk, and you should be confidently doing it. So now I'm just going to end with the story of the very first talk I ever gave. Okay, so people think like I was born into this and I came out like talking. Okay, I came out of my mother's stomach like, okay, no. So what happened was I was, you know, I do have a background in like community theater and high school and college theater, but I was never a public speaker, and I never ran for school council or anything. So I was like the editor of the newspaper. I was a writer. That was my thing. So when I married my husband, again, I had been religious for just a few minutes, and my husband was this rabbi, and you know, for 10 years. And we moved to Toronto, and they had this, and I had a little baby, Shoshana, and so my baby grew up. So they called me up at Aish Torah, and they said to me, I remember the first person I ever even learned with. They called me up. They go, we have a learning partner for you. I'm like, oh, good. There's so much I need to know. They go, no, you're the teacher. I'm like, what? Okay, so that was my introduction to teaching. It was a one-on-one. Her name is Rhonda. She's the best. Okay, so, but then they called me up one day, and they said, in 3 weeks, we're having a big love, dating, and marriage seminar. Right? It's going to be on a Sunday, and all Jewish singles, secular Jewish singles, love, dating, marriage. So they go, we want you to give one of the breakouts, because it's all like rabbi, and like we know like we need like a token woman up there. They didn't say that, but that's clearly what they wanted. We need a woman to teach something. Can you teach a breakout session? And I'm like, oh, but I never taught it. You know, I never did anything like this before. They go, no, you'll be great. And they go, it's just a breakout. So there's like 200 people, but there's like 8 breakouts. So like you're going to get like maybe, you know, 15, 20 people, because you know people don't know who you are. Fine. So they go, what do you want to teach? I go, well, if it's a love, dating, and marriage seminar, then I have, I think I could create a talk that's something I share with people on how to find the right one. It's like a workshop thing about your strengths and your weaknesses, and it's what I did before I met my husband. And I think I can design it in a way that it would be good for them to get clarity on how do you know it's the right person. They go, great, great. So we called it The Jewish View of Love, Dating, and Marriage, How to Find the Right One, okay? So I show up. First of all, I was grinding my teeth for like 3 weeks so that my jaw hurt. Literally my jaw hurt. I was so nervous about this talk. But I created a workshop, so it's like, it's a lot of the times they're writing, okay? So I'm like, okay, it's an hour, but like 40 minutes, they're writing. So So they had the keynote, and they go, okay, now everybody has to choose a breakout. Now, I was up against the most boring subjects ever, like medieval, Jews in medieval times. Those are like really like things like you're falling asleep just reading the title, okay? And I was like, love, dating, marriage, how to find the right one, to a bunch of Jewish singles. Every person came to my workshop, okay? They had to change it. They canceled all the other breakouts, and they had to change it from a classroom to the main place, and I was up. The rabbi who convinced me to do this was at the back of 200 people, and I'm like if looks could kill, I could not believe I was in this situation for the first talk I was ever giving. Baruch Hashem, thank God, it went great. Okay, they loved it. They laughed at the right place. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Right, it was great. So I became the Love, Dating, and Marriage talk. Okay, so whenever they'd have like a Judaism 101 series, it was always like Rabbi, Lori, Love, Dating, and Marriage, Rabbi. Okay, and that went on for 2 or 3 years till I was sick of giving this talk. Okay, I was literally like bored. So then I started teaching other things just because I was bored. And anyway, so then it became a thing, and there's not a lot of women speaking in the Jewish world, and I started getting booked. And I have to tell you, years later, I went back. Somebody requested this talk. It's in a list of my about 30 talks I give people as options. So they chose this talk, and I picked it up again, and it really is good. And it was like, it's okay. I just got bored of it. So it was a lot of fun to give. So what's the point? The point is, we're not living in ideal times, and my standing up in front of a lot of people is not the ideal. I have to tell you that. I'm not up here for my fun or for my entertainment or for my livelihood. I'm up here because the Jewish people are in crisis. And I really would rather be writing books and teaching around my dining room table. And I really would. That would be more ideal. But this is not ideal times. We have to get up, and we have to, and it's very important, especially for women, that they have role models. We need women teachers. It just can't be rabbi. And I have to tell you, if you do want to become a speaker in the Jewish world, there's a big demand, okay? I get asked to speak a lot, not just because, I thank God I've become a good speaker, but because there's not a lot of women doing what we do. There really isn't. There really is. If you want a career in this, or you want to do this, or you want to do it for your community, or you want to become, like there's a huge need. There's a huge need, and there's not a lot of people fulfilling that need. So, and I also have to tell you, like, it's not the ideal to speak in front of mixed audiences for me, but again, we're not living in ideal times. But I think it's also important for men to see like a Jewish woman who's observant, who again has funny and a little bit smart, and this is so, it's so important for our times. I can't stress it enough. And I feel very small in the face of what's in front of us, but I also feel very blessed. And I have to tell you, before I speak, I always say a prayer, always, before I get up. And I always say to Hashem, and you can make your own prayer, please give me the right thoughts, the right actions, and the right words, so that I could be a Kiddush Hashem, that I should represent you and your Torah in the right way. I say it every time, because you know what? I could get up, I could sneeze, and like comes out of me, like in the middle of the talk, like a million things could go wrong, okay? And Hashem, and there are times where somebody will ask a question, and I'll give the most unbelievable answer, to the point. Really, everybody's nodding, like yes, a little bit funny, but not too much, and he's been moving like the greatest answer ever. And if somebody would have asked me before the talk, what if somebody asked you this? I would have said, I wouldn't know what to say. The Almighty runs the world, and I'm a sock puppet. I really am. I told Charlie Harari, we're sock puppets. He's like, what? I go, Charlie, right? Because you know that the Almighty will give you, whether sometimes I'm writing, I feel like that too, like where's this coming from? The Almighty will help you if you're doing the right thing, and He really will. And so getting over your fears and getting over and going out of your comfort zone is where the Almighty wants you to be, for you and for the Jewish people, because life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes. Yeah, I really will take questions. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting watching Lori, hearing her story. I have $3. One of them just had her thumb mitzvah. And literally, we went through the same process, because I said to her, you're the bar Torah, we're in a conservative synagogue, is the only thing they're going to understand. You have all these hundreds of people watching you. The Hebrew's wonderful. I'm proud of you that you've got to practice. So we videoed her. She practiced like literally dozens of times. She gets up there with her on the beam.
Oh, I can story. Yeah.
Speech, and she's talking, and it's the mom who's listening to it. All of a sudden, I'm like, wait a minute, she's gone off script. Potiphar's wife is no longer. She was missing some pages in her papers, but because we had practiced, she had practiced with me coaching her, and had been videoed and had exaggerated, because she's introverted. She had never spoken in public, never done drama. She kept smiling. I managed, I had a second copy of the speech, which is always just in case. Because we've been advised. Ran it up on the beam. Everyone's like, some mother's doing up there, like, Andrea, sit down. And even though she wasn't reading from it, it was her crutch, which again, when you're 13, you're entitled. As soon as she had those papers, she just, you really saw her relax.
Wow.
She did beautifully. And my point of it is the practice pays off.
Yeah.
And we need to start with our children younger. And the bar bat mitzvah experience is such a powerful opportunity.
I've coached so many bar bat mitzvah kids, not just on making their Devar Torah, but how to present it. Really, because it really is, I tell them the presentation is something. I say, I want to stop shopping. So I can do content and I can do presentation with you. But it really is.
That was really my point.
Also, another thing, if you do have pages, number them.
Yes.
Number them. Because sometimes you're like, you don't know where you are. Like, you number your pages. That's an important thing if you have to use pages. What, the question? Yes.
Question. What about for timing and pacing yourself? I always find, I don't know where I am. Am I a third of the way? Am I 20 minutes into? Because I like to talk, and sometimes I'm talking.
Yeah.
Wait, have I talked too long? Too short? Because I don't see a clock.
There is a clock. And I'm watching it.
Always make sure that there's a clock somewhere.
So sometimes there's not a clock. So often my watch broke in LA, so I haven't fixed it yet because I have no time. But it's good to have a watch. A lot of times you see a speaker will take off their watch and put it on the podium in front of them, and they glance down to see how they're doing. Or you can have somebody in the audience, and I tell them, give me a 5-minute warning. Just tell me when I'm 5 minutes in. Okay, 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go. Generally, my talks, like I kind of know now, but sometimes you have to edit it. You have to understand. I'm actually, thank God, a very good speaker and a very flexible speaker. So if I get up, and I was once I was a keynote in Philadelphia, and it was one of those like people are being honored things, like, and the people introducing the people who are introducing the honoree were going, like, it was like ridiculous. And I saw the rabbi, the rabbi is freaking out, right? He's looking at his watch, and it's going late, and it's an evening thing, and people are already getting fidgety, and I was supposed to give a 40-minute keynote. Okay, so they introduced me, I walk up, I pass the rabbi, he does this. It means I got 15 minutes. So now a 40-minute talk has to be edited into 15 minutes. And I did it. Which also makes you feel like, and people loved it, thinking like, what the heck am I talking for 40 minutes for? Okay, I can clearly say it in 15. So you have to be flexible. And I always tell the speaker, the people bring me in, I always tell them, I'm here for you. I'm not here for me. Because there are speakers who would have gotten up and given 40 minutes. They would have said, are you kidding me? Like,
Usually male.
I'm like, 15, you got it, okay? Like, you have to be flexible. I'm here for you. Or they'll say, can you please say that we have something coming up? And I always compliment or say something good about the event, or I learned about the honoree. And you have to be flexible. Like, it's not just, this is your talk and you give it everywhere. Like, you adjust it to the city and you adjust it to the event itself and the organization. But you have to be able to pivot, yes.
We don't have to go into this topic if it's too much, but you talked about having the right content for the classes, but do you also think ahead of how are you going to build many classes and how you build people in each class? Is there a strategy to how many classes you're giving and how you're building each class?
So there's a difference between a talk or a series of classes, definitely. So I taught a series of classes. I remember, like, it was at the Village School in Toronto, and I said to my husband, like, somebody should teach these women need to they just need Judaism 101, okay? They need to know the hows and the whys of basic Judaism. He goes, okay, you teach it. I go, I don't know the hows and whys. So he says, I'll help you. So as I said, my husband invested a lot of time and effort into me, and I made the series Judaism 101, like the basic foundations of Judaism. And then we finished, and they wanted to keep going. So then I was like, okay, so then there's a series called The 48 Ways to Wisdom for Pirkei Avot. It literally takes 2.5 years to go through the series, okay? So it was like tons of, or you go through the Chumash, or you do the Parsha of the week, or it's like, there's things where you could do a series, or you could do, I'm doing a 3-part marriage series in Norfolk, Virginia right now, okay? So I took my marriage material, and I divided it into 3 parts, and that's what I'm doing. So I have a series called Jewish Values for Jewish Kids, and it's a series on values, okay? Now, I have a one talk that I give, where I give a snippet of it, and I pick a value, but then I also have a series that I can give. So it depends on your situation. I like to have a series. Why? I don't want to have to make up a new class every time, okay? Now, also you have to know, in terms of content, the first time you create classes, it does take time. It takes time to create a good class. But once you created it, you're not going to recreate it. You're going to adjust it slightly. You just review it, and then you give it. Like the first years of creating classes, that's you're investing in for the rest of your life. I'm still teaching that love, dating, and marriage thing from the original notes. Do you understand? I still teach from my original 48 Ways. Like I still teach from those notes. So obviously now my examples are different. Okay, it's not like, and my baby woke up in the middle of the night. Like now it's a little bit, little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. Yeah.
Where do we access Judaism 101?
Where do you access it?
If we want to learn it and then teach it.
Oh, so that was way back when I didn't really video anything. Actually, if you go to my series on Jewish values for Jewish kids, a lot of them are foundation values. But Judaism 101 is a little bit more than that. Like you would say, like, okay, like you're doing Shabbat, you're doing Kashrut, you're doing Mikvah, you're doing like some of the foundation mitzvahs, the hows and the whys of it, like death and mourning. Like there's like foundation things. I don't have it for you. I'm sorry. I wish I did. I wish back then I had, we had more technology. Yes.
Do you have strategies for when the energy in the room is like, and you're like you feel it?
Oh, you feel at the beginning.
In the beginning, like you start teaching.
Yeah.
How to get.
Okay, so you have to lift them up. They're not going to lift without you. You got to come in. I have to tell you, I spoke in South Africa. It was so funny. No, the one where earn to learn. Okay, so I was in a situation where I walk in and I think I just landed. It was the first night, and Rebbetzin Willis's husband, Rabbi Willis, and Rabbi. Ziskin, thank you, came up to me and they go, okay, so first of all, I said, okay, who am I talking to here? They go, okay, these are college students and we've paid them to come to hear you. Okay, which was a little disconcerting because usually they pay, okay, so clearly it's a thing called, well, here they call it Maimonides, there they literally say what it is, learn to earn, okay? They pay you to come to classes and to do a Shabbaton and they pay you. It's like, it's a whole thing of lo lishma, ba lishma, do it for the wrong reasons, you'll come to do it for the right reasons, you speak to their body, you get to their soul. Okay, I understand the premise of it, but for a speaker it's like, okay. And I actually opened with that. I go, this is the first time anybody's been paid to listen to me. Okay, like I hope you get your money's worth. Okay, fine. So, and if you don't, you still score. So I used that as a faith. So, but before I got on, Rabbi Ziskin and Rabbi Willis said to me, they took me aside. They said they explained who it was. I was like, okay. And they said also, they go, we've thrown out all our classes. All the material that we used to teach, we no longer teach because it doesn't resonate with this generation. We don't know what resonates with them, but we do know that if you don't grab them in the first minute, they're SMSing, okay, which is what they call texting, okay? They're SMSing. You've lost them. As soon as they do this, you've lost them if you don't grab them the first minute. So now, would you want to be me? Would you want to be me? I got up and I was just like, I was Miss Entertainment. I was like I was over the top because it was competitive to me. Like, they're not SMSing, okay? Like, no one's going to do that. And there are times too where I'll call people on it. Like, it'll be a college or a high school thing and they're talking or they're like this and I'm like, guys, okay, like you can't do that with adults, but then there are techniques too. So in terms of energy, you gotta lift it up. So for adults, there's different things for adults. Sometimes when somebody's talking, I'll just keep looking over at them until they realize like, oh, so they're looking at me. And we kind of have like a little relationship. I find, and I usually find the audience member who doesn't want to be there. Like his wife dragged him. How do you know he doesn't want to be there? This is his body language, okay, and he's not looking at me. Like he really didn't want to come, and his wife dragged him. So for me, I'm like very competitive. So I'm like, I am going to get this guy to look at me. Okay? I'm glancing over at him, and like he'll smile, half smile, doesn't want to like me. The people who don't want to like you are my favorite people because it's like I'm going to get them to like me. So I'm going to get him to uncross his arms. So that's my goal: is to get him, is to see what. So it's like part of my entertainment as a speaker. I'm giving the talk, but I'm sort of playing to them. Then there are things that happen where you have to know how to handle the situation. Do you ever been in a situation where somebody has a baby with them and the baby starts crying and they don't leave? Do you ever have that? So this is the best line. I got this line from Rabbi Noach Orlowek and I've given it to other speakers. So what do you do in a situation that it's so rude? Like your baby's making noise, take the baby out because everybody's now distracted by the baby noise. And I'm distracted. So I stop and I go, babies are like good ideas. Crying babies are like good ideas. Both should be carried out. Okay, so everybody laughs, and the person sheepishly goes. Okay, only one mother ever was angry that I did that to them, but otherwise, like, get your stupid baby out of the audience. Okay, like it's like so annoying. I can't believe people would do that. Or sometimes you're with usually not with adults, but with teenagers. They have water bottles. constantly. I'm going to kill this kid, okay? Like, and they don't even know it's making noise. They're doing it, but it makes me crazy. Also tell them to, and it's like, guys, come on. And sometimes literally they'll be doing it, and I'll go over, thank you so much, if I laugh, okay? Like, I'll return this at the end of the class, okay? So there's things that you do, and you try to do with humor. You try not to embarrass people, but you also, like, there's a lot of people here, and they're, like, annoyed. You can tell they're annoyed at that person, and it's up to you to handle it. Yeah.
Continuing that, I want to know how do all the the phones and the tablets.
Yeah. So I always ask the person. Yeah. I always ask the person introducing me to. Please, you remind them. Please tell everybody to shut off their phones. Okay. Please tell everybody to shut off their phones.
What Eric Brown said the other day, just put them away. Don't even have them, she asked everybody to put them away, not even in front of them.
Right. So you have to be careful because you have to know who's in front of you. And again, sometimes they're like, especially the people who are paid to hear you. Yeah. So you don't want to start off in such a negative place. Like, I wasn't going to go up and say to these kids, like, though I have to tell you, I was at a talk in, where was I? I was in Cleveland. Yeah, I was in Cleveland, and I did whatever. I was in for a main talk, but some NCSY, like they do with teens, and they asked me to do a thing. So I'm in the basement of somebody's house, and there's a bunch of NCSY kids, and they go, okay, everybody, whoever wants to draw for the slushie, put in your phones. They had this basket, and everybody throws in their phones to get their, and then at the end, they draw the phone for the slushie, okay? So I went to speak in Panama, and it was like a 3-day seminar, and they flew me in for the second day. So I come in, I go, how's the seminar going? They're going, the girls are on their phones the whole time, we're going crazy, we don't know what to do, and I told them this is what they did in Cleveland. They go, this is a fantastic idea, but it's Panama. Okay, the very wealthy Jewish community. They go, okay, girls, everybody put in their phones, we're going to do a draw for a designer bag, okay? Really? It was like a major designer, okay? And everybody threw in their phones, okay? It was hilarious, okay? But you got to take the phones out of the room because the phones will start buzzing and beeping and stuff and ringing. But that's a way, it's a technique to get people, you have to be a little bit prepared. It does bother me at people, but often people are taking notes, you have to understand. And sometimes people are speaking because they're translating. You have to sometimes give them the benefit of the doubt also, what's going on. Yeah.
One thing to Lisa's point that is helpful, because Lori has so much energy, and not all of us do, but I always find if you can, before you start, especially if it's small enough, where you actually introduce yourself, you can create a bond with the audience before you're speaking, and they're more what I found, they're more likely to give you respect because they already feel like they've met you. So instead of you being some person, you're like, oh, hi, I'm Andrea, nice to meet you, Roseanne, I'm so glad you're here. So you're kind of building, and again, I call it marinating the audience, get them warmed up, and that way, there's a connection. So when you smile at them, you've already met them, and especially we all can be a little nervous when it's new people and you don't want to embarrass yourself.
And in terms of introducing, the person introducing me is always way more nervous than I am. The person introducing me is literally reading from a paper for 30 seconds, and they're freaking out, okay? They're literally hyperventilating backstage. And I'm like, you can do this, it's okay. So often, you should control the introduction. Ideally, that means you send ahead of time, this is how I like to be introduced, okay? Because sometimes they don't know, and they say, I've had the stupidest introductions where they're saying the wrong things, they're rambling and literally setting me up almost for failure. They didn't mean to do it, but it's because they're introducing you. And a good introduction, the person, you can't wait to meet them. Oh my gosh, I can't believe who they brought in. So, but anyway, so sometimes they lose it, or they literally come up to me so many times, what do you want me to say when I introduce you? This is when you're about to get on. So you got okay. So tell what you're ready about. The best is to have a copy of your introduction with you, and because often they forgot it at home, or they didn't get it, or you thought they got it. So this is how you want them to introduce you, so that they pronounce your name properly and they say all the important points, and there are things that you don't want them to say, make sure they don't say it, because it can really mess up your thing. Yeah.
Like what? So what would you want them to say in a general way to introduce you?
If you want, I can send you my introduction that I send to people, and I even have a cute end, I actually make them look good, okay? And their video blog, Lori Almost Live, but tonight we have Lori Live. Isn't that a great introduction? Okay, that's at the end. So but your credentials and awards you've won.